Today we're talking about something that affects millions of men, but almost nobody connects the dots on. How your daily lifestyle choices are directly impacting your sexual health right now. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why your sex drive isn't what it used to be? Why you're not waking up with morning erections anymore? Why you're struggling with performance issues that seemingly came out of nowhere? Most men think it's just aging or stress, or maybe they need medication. But the truth is, it's usually your lifestyle that's killing your sexual function, and you don't even realize it. Now, before we get into it, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. I put out content like this every week to help you optimize your health, your relationships, and your life. Only about 15% of people watching are actually subscribed, and I want to make sure you don't miss the videos that could genuinely change your life. Today, we're breaking down the 4 major lifestyle factors that research shows have the biggest impact on male sexual health: exercise, sleep, stress, and relationships. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how each one affects your sexual function and what you need to do to optimize them. Let's jump in. Exercise, the most powerful natural performance enhancer. Let's start with exercise because this is hands down the most powerful lifestyle intervention for sexual health that exists. And I'm not exaggerating. The research on this is overwhelming and crystal clear. Multiple large-scale studies show that men who exercise regularly have significantly better sexual function than sedentary men. We're talking 30% to 50% reduction in erectile dysfunction risk just from being physically active. That's more effective than most medications, and it comes with 0 negative side effects. But here's what most men don't understand. Not all exercise is created equal when it comes to sexual health. Let me break down what actually works and why. Cardiovascular exercise and blood flow. First, let's talk about cardiovascular exercise: running, cycling, swimming, rowing, anything that gets your heart rate up for sustained periods. Why does this matter for sexual function? Because erections are fundamentally a vascular event. They depend entirely on blood flow. When you're aroused, your nervous system sends signals that cause the arteries in your penis to dilate and fill with blood. But if those arteries are compromised by plaque buildup, inflammation, or poor cardiovascular health, they can't dilate properly. Result? Weak erections or no erections at all. Here's the thing that should terrify you. Erectile dysfunction is often the first sign of cardiovascular disease. The arteries in your penis are only 1 to 2 millimeters in diameter. The arteries in your heart are 3 to 4 millimeters. So when plaque starts building up in your arteries, the smallest ones get blocked first. That means erectile dysfunction often shows up 3 to 5 years before a heart attack. Your penis is literally your early warning system for heart disease. If you're having erectile problems, you need to take it seriously, not just for your sex life, but for your life, period. Now here's the good news. Cardiovascular exercise reverses this process. When you do regular cardio, you improve endothelial function. That's the health of the inner lining of your blood vessels. You reduce inflammation. You improve your cholesterol profile. You reduce blood pressure. All of these directly improve blood flow, including to your penis. A study published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine followed men with erectile dysfunction who started exercising regularly. After just 6 months of moderate aerobic exercise, we're talking 30 to 40 minutes, 4 times a week, 40% of the men completely resolved their erectile dysfunction. Another 30% saw significant improvement. Let me repeat that 70% of men with erectile dysfunction saw improvement from exercise alone. No pills, no injections, no devices, just moving their bodies consistently. But here's what's critical. It has to be consistent. You can't go for a run once a week and expect results. The research shows you need at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity cardio per week, or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity. That's 30 minutes, 5 days a week, or 3 25-minute high-intensity sessions. And it needs to actually elevate your heart rate. A casual stroll, while better than nothing, isn't enough to create the cardiovascular adaptations you need. You should be breathing hard enough that having a conversation is difficult, but not impossible. Strength training and testosterone. Now, let's talk about resistance training, because this is where things get really interesting for male sexual health. Strength training, particularly heavy compound movements, has a direct impact on your hormones in ways that cardiovascular exercise doesn't. Multiple studies show that heavy resistance training acutely increases testosterone levels. When you perform exercises that engage large muscle groups under significant load, squats, deadlifts, bench press, rows, your body responds by releasing testosterone and growth hormone. This effect is temporary, lasting a few hours after your workout. But when you're training consistently multiple times per week, you're regularly spiking these hormones. Over time, this can lead to sustained improvements in your baseline testosterone levels, especially if you're also addressing other factors like sleep and body composition. And testosterone matters for sexual function in multiple ways. It doesn't just drive libido, though it definitely does that. Testosterone is also necessary for the production of nitric oxide in your blood vessels, the same nitric oxide that causes vasodilation and allows blood to flow into your penis during arousal. Low testosterone means lower nitric oxide production, which means weaker erections, even if you still have sexual desire. But here's what's really important. The type of strength training matters. Research shows that the biggest hormonal response comes from heavy loads. You need to be lifting weights that are challenging for 6 to 12 repetitions. If you can easily do 20 reps, you're not lifting heavy enough to trigger a significant hormonal response. Compound movements. Exercises that involve multiple joints and large muscle groups. Squats, deadlifts, overhead press, bench press, rows, pull-ups. These engage more total muscle mass than isolation exercises, which creates a bigger stimulus. Lower body emphasis. Your legs and glutes are your largest muscle groups. Exercises that emphasize the lower body, squats, deadlifts, lunges, create the largest testosterone response. Adequate rest between sets. When you're lifting heavy, you need to rest long enough to recover. Typically 2 to 3 minutes between sets. This allows you to maintain intensity across multiple sets. Progressive overload. You need to gradually increase the stress over time, adding weight, adding reps, or adding sets. Your body adapts to consistent stress, so you need to keep challenging it. Now, I know some of you are thinking, I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder. I just want to have good sex. I get it. But here's the thing. The same training principles that build muscle also optimize your hormones, improve your cardiovascular health, reduce body fat, and enhance your physical capabilities. All of these directly impact sexual function. You don't need to become a powerlifter, but you do need to challenge your body with meaningful resistance consistently. Pelvic floor strength. There's one more exercise component we need to talk about that's absolutely critical for sexual function: your pelvic floor muscles. Most men have never even heard of these muscles, but they directly control erection quality, ejaculation, and orgasm intensity. Your pelvic floor is a group of muscles at the base of your pelvis that do several things. They support your pelvic organs, control urination, and, critically for our purposes, they pump blood into your penis and maintain erection rigidity. When these muscles are weak, you experience softer erections, difficulty maintaining erections during sex, premature ejaculation, and weaker orgasms. When they're strong, everything improves. There was a landmark study published in BJU International that looked at men with erectile dysfunction who did pelvic floor exercises for 6 months. The results were remarkable. 40% completely recovered normal erectile function. Another 35% saw significant improvement. That's 75% of men experiencing real improvement from exercises you can do while sitting at your desk. So, how do you strengthen your pelvic floor? The exercises are called Kegels, and here's how they work. First, you need to identify the right muscles. The easiest way is next time you're urinating, try to stop the flow midstream. Don't actually do this regularly while urinating because it's not good for your bladder, but do it once to feel which muscles you're engaging. That pulling, lifting sensation in your perineum, the area between your scrotum and anus, that's your pelvic floor contracting. Once you know what it feels like, you can exercise these muscles anywhere. Contract the muscles and pull them up and in, like you're trying to stop urinating and prevent passing gas at the same time. Hold the contraction for 5 seconds while breathing normally. Relax completely for 5 seconds. That's 1 rep. Do 10 reps 3 times per day. You can do this sitting at your desk, driving your car, watching TV. Nobody knows you're doing it. Start with 5-second holds and work up to 10-second holds as you get stronger. Be patient. Like any muscle, it takes time to build strength. Most men start seeing improvements in 4 to 6 weeks. And here's a bonus. The compound strength training movements we talked about earlier, especially squats and deadlifts, also engage your pelvic floor as stabilizers. So you're getting double benefit. The body composition connection. Before we move on from exercise, we need to talk about body composition because this is where exercise has another massive impact on sexual health by reducing body fat. Here's something most men don't know. Fat tissue is metabolically active. It's not just inert storage. Fat cells, especially visceral fat around your belly, produce an enzyme called aromatase. And aromatase converts testosterone into estrogen. So the more belly fat you're carrying, the more testosterone you're converting into estrogen. You're literally feminizing your hormonal environment. And low testosterone plus high estrogen equals sexual dysfunction, low libido, erectile difficulties, reduced energy, loss of muscle mass, mood problems. Research shows that for every point increase in BMI, testosterone drops about 2%. So if you're 30 pounds overweight, that could translate to a 15 to 20% reduction in testosterone, and that directly impacts your sexual function. But belly fat doesn't just mess with your hormones. It also creates chronic inflammation throughout your body, and that inflammation damages the endothelium, the inner lining of your blood vessels. Damaged endothelium means impaired blood flow, which means erectile dysfunction. The good news? This is completely reversible. Lose the excess body fat and testosterone levels rise, inflammation decreases, blood flow improves, and sexual function returns. I've seen countless cases where men in their 40s or 50s come in with erectile dysfunction and low energy. They're 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight. They start exercising consistently, clean up their diet, and 6 months later, they've lost the weight and their sexual function has completely normalized without any medication. So here's what you need to know. Measure your waist at the level of your belly button. If it's over 40 inches, you're in the high-risk category for erectile dysfunction and cardiovascular disease. If it's over 37 inches, you're in the danger zone. Your goal should be under 35 inches. And the way you get there is consistent exercise combined with proper nutrition. You can't out-train a bad diet, but you also can't diet your way to optimal health without exercise. You need both. Sleep, the foundation of hormonal health. Now, let's talk about something that most men completely underestimate: sleep. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not prioritizing sleep, nothing else we discuss is going to work optimally. Sleep is the foundation of hormonal health, and hormonal health is the foundation of sexual function. Here's what happens while you sleep. Your body does the majority of its testosterone production during deep sleep, particularly in the early morning hours. If you're not getting enough sleep, or if your sleep quality is poor, your testosterone production gets crushed. Research shows that men who sleep less than 5 hours per night have testosterone levels that are 10 to 15% lower than men who sleep 7 to 8 hours. That's a massive difference. And it doesn't take long for sleep deprivation to impact your hormones. One study found that after just 1 week of sleeping 5 hours per night, young healthy men's testosterone levels dropped by 10 to 15%. But it's not just about quantity. Quality matters too. You need to be cycling through all the sleep stages properly, including deep sleep and REM sleep. This is where sleep disorders become a huge problem. The sleep apnea crisis. Let's talk about sleep apnea, because this is destroying millions of men's sexual health, and most of them don't even know they have it. Sleep apnea is a condition where your airway repeatedly collapses during sleep, causing you to stop breathing for 10 to 30 seconds at a time. You partially wake up, gasping for air, often without fully realizing it, then fall back asleep and the cycle repeats. Sometimes this happens dozens or even hundreds of times per night. When this happens, your oxygen levels drop, your body goes into stress mode and releases cortisol and adrenaline. Your sleep is fragmented, so you never get quality, deep sleep, and the chronic stress response damages your blood vessels. The result? Crushed testosterone production, damaged cardiovascular system, chronic fatigue, and severe erectile dysfunction. Here's the statistic that should alarm you. 69% of men with obstructive sleep apnea have erectile dysfunction, nearly 7 out of 10. And many of these men have no idea they have sleep apnea. They just know they're tired all the time, and their sex life isn't working. How do you know if you have sleep apnea? Here are the warning signs. Loud, chronic snoring, waking up gasping or choking. Your partner notices you stop breathing during sleep. Waking up with headaches, excessive daytime sleepiness despite spending enough time in bed. Difficulty concentrating during the day. Waking up frequently to urinate at night. Morning dry mouth or sore throat. If you have multiple of these symptoms, you need to get evaluated. See a sleep specialist and get a sleep study. This isn't something to ignore or put off. The good news is that sleep apnea is treatable. CPAP machines, continuous positive airway pressure, are the gold standard treatment, and they work. When men with sleep apnea start using CPAP consistently, their testosterone levels often normalize, their cardiovascular health improves, their energy returns, and their sexual function improves dramatically. Other treatments include oral appliances that reposition your jaw to keep your airway open. Weight loss. Obesity is a major risk factor for sleep apnea. Positional therapy. Some people only have apnea when sleeping on their back, and in some cases surgery. The point is, if you have sleep apnea, treating it can be absolutely life-changing for your sexual health and your overall health. Sleep hygiene fundamentals. Even if you don't have sleep apnea, optimizing your sleep hygiene can significantly improve your hormonal health and sexual function. Here's what the research supports. Consistent sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends. Your body's circadian rhythm thrives on consistency. When you're all over the place with your sleep schedule, your hormonal production gets disrupted. 7 to 8 hours minimum. This is non-negotiable if you want optimal testosterone production. Some men need even more. Very few actually thrive on less, despite what they tell themselves. Dark, cool bedroom. Your room should be as dark as possible. Blackout curtains are ideal. Temperature should be cool, around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Your body needs to drop its core temperature to initiate sleep, and a cool room facilitates this. No screens for 1 to 2 hours before bed. The blue light from phones, tablets, and computers suppresses melatonin production and makes it harder to fall asleep. If you must use screens, use blue light blocking glasses or enable night mode. No alcohol close to bedtime. While alcohol might help you fall asleep initially, it severely disrupts sleep quality, particularly REM sleep. You might be in bed for 8 hours, but getting the equivalent of 4 hours of quality sleep. No caffeine after 2 p.m. Caffeine has a half-life of about 5 to 6 hours. If you have coffee at 4 p.m., half of that caffeine is still in your system at 10 p.m. It might not prevent you from falling asleep, but it definitely impairs sleep quality. Regular exercise, but not right before bed. Exercise improves sleep quality dramatically, but vigorous exercise within 3 hours of bedtime can actually impair sleep because it elevates cortisol and body temperature. Manage stress before bed. Have a wind-down routine that helps you transition from the stress of the day to a relaxed state. This might include reading, gentle stretching, meditation, deep breathing, or journaling. When you prioritize sleep, everything else improves. Your testosterone optimizes, your stress hormones normalize, your mood stabilizes, your energy returns, and yes, your sexual function improves. Stress, the silent erection killer. Now, let's talk about stress, because this is the factor that men most commonly underestimate. You might be doing everything else right, exercising, sleeping well, eating properly, but if your stress levels are chronically elevated, your sexual function will suffer. Guaranteed. Here's why. When you're stressed, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline. These are your fight or flight hormones. They're designed for short-term survival situations, running from a predator, fighting an enemy. They increase heart rate, blood pressure, and alertness while suppressing non-essential functions. And guess what your body considers non-essential during a life-threatening emergency? Digestion, immune function, tissue repair, and sexual function. Makes sense, right? If you're running from a bear, having an erection is not a priority. The problem is that modern stress isn't short-term. It's chronic. Work stress, financial stress, relationship stress, health stress, existential stress about the state of the world. It's constant, low-level activation of your stress response system. And chronic elevation of cortisol absolutely destroys your sexual function. Here's how. Cortisol suppresses testosterone production. Your body diverts resources away from sex hormone production towards stress hormone production. Chronic stress can reduce testosterone by 20% or more. Cortisol causes vasoconstriction. Your blood vessels tighten, which is the opposite of what you need for an erection. You need vasodilation, opening of the blood vessels. Stress creates the opposite physiological state. Stress activates your sympathetic nervous system, but sexual arousal and function happen in your parasympathetic nervous system. These two systems are mutually exclusive. You can't be in both at the same time. When you're stressed, you literally cannot be sexually aroused at a physiological level. Chronic stress causes anxiety and depression, both of which directly impair libido and sexual function. Stress disrupts sleep, which, as we just discussed, crushes testosterone production. So stress is this cascade of negative effects on your sexual health. And the insidious thing is that stress about sexual performance creates more stress, which makes the sexual dysfunction worse, which creates more stress. It's a vicious cycle, breaking the stress cycle. So, how do you manage stress in a way that actually works? Let me give you strategies that are backed by research. Exercise is the single most effective stress management tool. We already talked about exercise for cardiovascular and hormonal benefits, but the stress reduction benefit deserves its own mention. Exercise reduces cortisol, increases endorphins, improves mood, and provides a healthy outlet for stress and anxiety. The research is overwhelming on this. Meditation and mindfulness practices have been shown in hundreds of studies to reduce cortisol, lower blood pressure, improve emotional regulation, and yes, improve sexual function. Even just 10 to 15 minutes a day of simple breathing exercises or guided meditation can make a measurable difference. Time in nature reduces stress hormones. We talked about this in a previous video, but it's worth repeating. Just 20 minutes in a natural environment, a park, a forest, near water, significantly reduces cortisol levels. Social connection is protective against stress. Men who have strong social connections and friendships have lower stress levels and better health outcomes than isolated men. Don't neglect your friendships, hobbies, and activities you enjoy that have nothing to do with work or productivity. Things you do purely because they bring you joy. These are not frivolous. They're essential for stress management. Boundaries around work. If you're checking email at 10 p.m., thinking about work problems during family time, and never truly disconnecting, your stress levels will remain elevated constantly. You need boundaries, professional help when needed. If your stress has crossed into anxiety or depression, or if you're struggling to manage it on your own, working with a therapist is not a sign of weakness. It's a practical solution to a common problem. Here's what I want you to understand. You cannot perform sexually when your nervous system is in threat mode. You need to create the conditions for your parasympathetic nervous system to activate. That means actively managing stress, not just hoping it goes away on its own. Relationships, the hidden factor in sexual function. Now, let's talk about the factor that almost nobody discusses in the context of male sexual health: your relationship. And I'm going to be direct here because this is important. Your relationship quality has a massive impact on your sexual function. And I'm not just talking about whether you're attracted to your partner or whether they're willing to have sex with you. I'm talking about the emotional dynamics, the communication patterns, the level of intimacy and trust, the amount of unresolved conflict, and how safe and accepted you feel in the relationship. Research consistently shows that relationship satisfaction is one of the strongest predictors of sexual satisfaction. And conversely, relationship problems are one of the most common causes of sexual dysfunction, even when there's nothing physically wrong. Here's why this matters. Remember how we talked about stress and the sympathetic nervous system? Well, relationship conflict and emotional disconnection activate the same stress response. When there's unresolved resentment, when you don't feel emotionally safe with your partner, when communication is strained, when you're walking on eggshells, all of this creates chronic low-level stress that inhibits sexual function. Let me give you some examples of how relationship dynamics impact sexual health. Resentment and unexpressed anger. If you're harboring resentment toward your partner about things that haven't been addressed, that emotional charge doesn't just disappear when you get into bed. It sits there between you, creating tension and preventing genuine intimacy. And without genuine intimacy, sexual arousal becomes difficult. Performance pressure. If your partner has communicated either directly or indirectly disappointment in your sexual performance, that creates massive anxiety. Now every sexual encounter becomes a test you're afraid of failing. And that fear makes failure more likely. Lack of emotional intimacy. For many men, especially as they age, sexual arousal becomes increasingly connected to emotional intimacy. If you feel disconnected from your partner emotionally, you may find it difficult to become aroused sexually, even if physical attraction is still there. Mismatched libidos. If you want sex more frequently than your partner, and this difference has become a source of conflict, you may start experiencing desire as a source of shame or guilt. This can actually suppress your libido over time. Poor communication. If you and your partner can't talk openly about sex, about what feels good, what doesn't, what you want more of, what you want less of, you're both operating in the dark. And uncertainty creates anxiety, trust, and betrayal issues. If there's been infidelity, emotional betrayal, or broken trust in the relationship, that fundamentally undermines the safety required for sexual vulnerability. Even if you're trying to work through it, the lack of safety will impact sexual function, relationship quality, and erectile function. There was a fascinating study published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine that looked at the connection between relationship quality and erectile function. They found that men in relationships characterized by good communication, emotional intimacy, and mutual respect had significantly better erectile function than men in relationships with poor communication and high conflict, even when controlling for age, health status, and other factors. In other words, the quality of your relationship directly impacts your ability to get and maintain an erection, independent of your physical health. Think about what this means. You could be in perfect physical health with optimal testosterone, excellent cardiovascular function, low stress, but if your relationship is broken, you may still experience sexual dysfunction. This is why so many men are confused when they develop erectile problems. They get checked out medically, everything looks fine, and they're told it's all in their head. But it's not just in their head, it's in their relationship. What to do about relationship issues? So if relationship problems are impacting your sexual health, what do? Here are evidence-based strategies. Address conflicts directly. Don't let resentments fester. When something is bothering you, bring it up, not in an accusatory way, but as something you want to work through together. Use "I feel" statements rather than "you always" statements. The goal is resolution, not winning. Improve emotional intimacy. Spend time together that's not about sex. Have conversations about things that matter. Share your internal world with your partner. Ask about theirs. Create connection outside the bedroom, and it will show up inside the bedroom. Communicate about sex openly. This is hard for many men, but it's essential. Talk about what you enjoy, what you'd like to try, what makes you anxious. Ask your partner the same questions. Create a space where sexual communication feels safe rather than judgmental. Consider couples therapy. If you're stuck in patterns you can't seem to break on your own, a good couples therapist can facilitate conversations and provide tools that dramatically improve relationship quality. This isn't a last resort. It's a practical intervention that works. Address any betrayal or trust issues. If there's been infidelity or broken trust, sweeping it under the rug won't work. You need to actively work through it, which usually means professional help. Trust can be rebuilt, but not by pretending everything is fine. Align expectations around sex. If you have different levels of desire, that's not necessarily a problem. But it becomes a problem when it's a source of conflict or shame. Talk openly about your needs and find compromises that honor both people. Create novelty and variety. One reason sex becomes less exciting in long-term relationships is routine. Same time, same place, same positions, same predictable sequence. Introducing novelty, even small changes, can reignite interest. This doesn't have to be complicated. Different locations, different times of day, different activities, trying something new together. Here's what I want you to understand. Your sexual function doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's deeply connected to the quality of your relationship, your emotional state, and how safe and accepted you feel with your partner. You can take all the supplements in the world, you can have perfect testosterone levels, you can be in great physical shape, but if your relationship is broken, your sex life will suffer. Conversely, when you invest in your relationship, when you improve communication and deepen intimacy, sexual function often improves dramatically even without any other interventions. The good news? You don't have to fix everything at once. Start anywhere. Pick the area where you can make the most immediate progress and start there. The improvements in that area will create positive momentum that makes the other areas easier to address. Maybe exercise is the easiest place to start. You can literally go for a run today. Maybe it's sleep. You can implement better sleep hygiene tonight. Maybe it's stress management. You can start a meditation practice this week. Maybe it's your relationship. You can have an honest conversation with your partner tonight. Just start somewhere, because every positive change you make in one area creates benefits that ripple through the others. My name is Dr. Eva Danielle, men's health expert. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.